الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear respected people, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another episode of An Ayah a Day Shows You the Way. We are, subhanallah, in the middle of the series now, episode number 15. Time indeed flies. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept what we've accumulated of deeds so far in the month of Ramadan, forgive our shortcomings, and bless for us whatever remains of this blessed month, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, inshallah, today we'll be going through Juz 15, and I couldn't think of a more important lesson regarding us in our current times than two very important people in our lifetime. Parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Isra, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in these two beautiful ayat, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none other but Him, and unto parents excellence. And if they were to grow old, one of them or both of them grow old within your care, do not say to them so much as uff, and do not leave them, but say to them a good word. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ, and lower for them your wing of humiliation out of mercy. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O my Lord, have mercy on both of them just as they had mercy on me when I was small. Wallahi, there's so much to unpack in these two ayat. There's so much to unpack, and I don't think I could ever do justice to these two ayat, even if we were to have an episode of over an hour. There's so much to unpack here, but inshallah we'll cover a few points, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins this ayah by saying a very heavy statement. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none other but Him. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling people to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone, i.e. the opposite of shirk. This is how high the instruction is. This is how high and mighty this instruction is. Straight after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and unto parents, both parents, excellence. So just to break this down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is telling mankind that they should not worship anyone other than Him. And unto parents, excellence. The first point to note here is that, when it comes to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, it's possible that in some areas of your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like salah, recitation of Quran, seeking knowledge, giving rights to people, you may not reach the level of excellence. But out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite mercy, He could accept some of those deeds, even if they don't reach the element of excellence. Like for salah as an example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He could accept that even though there may be defects in your salah. But what's the highest point a Muslim can reach when it comes to the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's mentioned in the 40 ahadith of which was transmitted via Imam Nawawi in the long hadith about إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Later on it says, what is ihsan? Ihsan is the word used here, by the way, for parents. It says, أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. i.e., the definition of ihsan is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as though you can see Him. And if you cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then indeed for sure He can see you. That is the definition of ihsan. That you take this mindset in all of your deeds and you apply it, that is what is ihsan. You pray with ihsan, you give rights to people with ihsan, you recite the Quran with ihsan, you seek knowledge with ihsan. But in those actions I've just mentioned, even if you don't reach ihsan, out of Allah's mercy, He could accept that. But then look at the standard. Look at the standard Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets from the very beginning regarding parents. Subhanallah. He says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. That with me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is implying in this ayah that it's a journey for you to reach ihsan with me. But from the beginning, with your parents, ihsan is the number one standard. It's the lowest standard and it's the highest standard. Subhanallah. Look how much emphasis Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is placing on the parents here. That regarding Allah Azza wa Jal, His rights regarding like salah, etc., and Quran and seeking knowledge, it doesn't need to be up there, even though the mu'min should try. But the lowest standard for parents should be ihsan. That's the lowest standard. And then there's some Arabic points here, that whenever a verb is mentioned in a sentence, a verb implies something temporary. So, if I was to say in an Arabic sentence, ashrabu ash-shay, I am drinking tea, that tea will eventually come to an end. So I can no longer implement that action on the tea because the tea is finished, khalas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't even mentioned a verb here. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And onto parents, excellence. And this in the Arabic language is known as something called ighra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inciting something very seriously to you. It's as though, subhanAllah, when you say to like a child, bedtime. Or when you say to children, dinner. It's just one sentence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, parents, excellence. That's the implied meaning from the grammar that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is passing to the reader when he's reading this regarding his parents. Now, we'll move on to the next part. And when they, either one of them or both of them, reach old age in your care, don't say to any of them, uff, and do not admonish them. Right? So the first point I'd like to break down is when they reach old age in your care. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very precise about this. And subhanAllah, looking at the individualistic society where the primary focus of every single person is just me, my needs, my wishes, my dreams, my desires, my house, my children, my friends, my job, my money, my car, me. It's all about me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is implying something here that when your parents, He's saying, grow old in your care, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying almost by default, they should always be by your side. Parents should always be by your side. That's the word indaka. The word indaka here is zarf makan, i.e., it's pointing towards a place of something. He's saying that the place of where the parents should grow old is near you. It should be with you. And you look at how individualistic society has become, it's so crazy, subhanAllah, that children, when they reach a mature age, it's even a chore to pick up the phone and speak to the parents. Even though they're not growing old next to the child who's mature now, it's even hard to pick up the phone and say, Mom, Dad, you okay? Or you find a quick excuse that, you're on the phone or they're talking to you about something and they're boring you with the details of their day. I've just got another call. I need to go, Dad. See you later. Or, Mom, I'm busy. Put the phone down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has almost made it the default position of parents that they should always be so close with you. Hence the word عندك. Zarf makan, i.e. it's a place. They should be very close to you. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying from this ayah. Then he's saying, do not say to, where one of them or two of them grow old, do not say to them, uff. Now the word uff in Arabic it's not literally in the one who's saying uff. That's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here. The word uff is used to imply a meaning of even a mild sense of disgust. Even a mild sense of disgust. So what that means is, in our language, it doesn't even mean that you have to say, like that. It can even mean what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this ayah. You know when parents and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the parents. I mean, this is just like a humorous point. When parents reach an old age, they can press your buttons so easily. So easily. And before I go into examples, I just want to profess, mom and dad, I love you dearly. And my mom won't mind me passing this example. But in the mornings, before I get ready for work, mom wakes up, mashallah, earlier than me. She has this one habit, and I love her for this habit. She'll wake up in the morning, and when she walks down the hallway, she walks so fast, I think the house is getting robbed. So I kind of panic in my sleep, and I just remember, it's mom, subhanallah. And in the beginning, wallahi, and this is me just being human and honest with you, it would annoy me so much because I'm thinking, wow, what's happened? Is the house is getting robbed? What's happening? Is something happened? And then over time, you realize, subhanallah, that's just one of mom's habits. And you end up loving it, that even when it doesn't happen, some mornings you're like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And now it's not fair to just, pick on mom. I'll give an example of my beloved father. Uber Eats. Uber Eats is a huge phenomenon right now in the 21st century, all over the world. Son, what are you doing? Dad, I'm just, ordering some food. Would you like anything? No, I'm okay. Jazakallah khair. Food will come. Son, why are you wasting your money? You shouldn't waste your money on Uber Eats. And it comes from a very warm place. This food is bad for you. 30 minutes later, after I've had my meal with dad has his own meal, we're eating together. Son, can you give me 3 scoops of raspberry ripple ice cream? Can you give me 3 scoops of... And in that moment, I'm thinking, Dad, you've just told me not to waste my money, number one. And number two, you're telling me do not eat junk food. And you've asked for raspberry ripple ice cream. And the natural response to come is, Dad, you're telling me to do one thing, but you're doing the other. Over time, subhanallah, you begin to love these traits of the parents. Do you know why? Because it's the nature of parents that when they grow older, they become more vulnerable. And when they become more vulnerable and they're able to do this with you, it's a sign that they love you immensely, because they won't be able to show their annoying side to someone who doesn't have patience with them, right? They wouldn't be able to do that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's saying here in this ayah that when they grow old and on autopilot, they can, annoy you and make you feel bad and make you feel like the house is being robbed in the morning and dad wants his 3-scoop raspberry ripple ice cream with strawberry sauce on top. Do not say off to them. Do not say off. You're not even allowed to take a deep sigh. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. Why? Because the manzila, the status of parents in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so high that immediately after He has decreed to not worship anyone other but Him, unto parents' excellence is permanent. It's permanent. Even when you're not with your parents, your thought process, your concern, your worry, your future plans in life, when Allah is saying excellence, it has to include the parents in that too. Because no verb is mentioned in the ayah. And because no verb is mentioned in the ayah, it means there has to be a state of permanence regarding parents. A state of permanent excellence with the parents. Subhanallah. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا, and give unto them soft beautiful words. Joke with your parents. Make them laugh. Tell them things about your day. Ask them things about their day. Exchanging niceties with your parents. Ask them to tell you stories from their childhood. Even ask them things which you know about yourself, but to give them a sense of credibility and importance, you'll ask them out of love from this ayah. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Now this moves us on to the next ayah. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. I'll try to get through this quickly because of time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and lower unto both of them your wing of humiliation. Now, which bird, I've just given the answer away. Which animal has wings? Birds. And birds, when they want to take off, they start raising their wings. And then when birds want to take a place of rest, they lower their wings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this ayah, i.e., lower your wing of humiliation and weakness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has identified now that your parents have reached an old age, you now are in prime time. You're earning a lot of money, you've got your own car, you've got your own family, you've got your own routine of life. Realistically speaking, you don't need your parents anymore from a benefit perspective, because you're on your own 2 feet, as your parents always wanted you to be. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this point that there will come a time where you will be stronger than them, you will be more healthier than them, you will not need to be reliant on them. But even then, when that time comes, lower your wing of what? Humiliation. i.e., come to the ground with them. Show them that you're weak. Min al-rahmah, lower onto them your wing of mercy, your wing of humiliation out of mercy. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say. Why? Because when you were a little bird and you weren't able to fly, mom and dad were the ones who would leave the nest, go and raise their wings, go and get food, come back to the nest, lower their wings and feed you. In the analogy of birds. But as babies, as human beings, you would always, puke up on your parents, need your nappy changing 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, depending on how many times you were fed. And on top of that, your parents will still show you an immense amount of love. Never shout at you, never scream at you. Subhanallah. And when you were young, I used to do this to my father all the time. Allahu Alam, how he had patience with me. I just used to love asking the question why. Because I knew that you could ask why after every single answer. Dad, why are buildings shaped this way? Son, because bricks have a structure. Why? Because that's the way some building. Why? Because son, some architects. Why? Why? There was never a time when my dad said to me, hey son, please, just shut up for one moment. There was never a time he's done that. But then subhanallah, you notice that pattern comes alive when parents grow old again. They ask the same questions. So you may have given them an answer at the beginning of the day. 6 hours later, they ask you, and subhanallah, what do we do naturally? We do what our parents didn't do when we were young. You say, Dad, I just told you in the morning, man, you asked me what's going to happen, what the plans are for the day, I told you. But then you look at this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that when they grow old and they're vulnerable, the exact same way when you were young, they lowered their wings of mercy onto you. Now comes the time for you to lower your wings of mercy onto them. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What dua should you make for them even in this blessed month of Ramadan? وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا. O my Lord, show mercy unto both of them. كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Just as they raised me mercifully when I was small. And what do you also learn from this ayah? Subhanallah, you learn that it's a beautiful pattern in life. It's a beautiful pattern in life. And this is something I see with my parents, that because they were kind, soft and gentle with their parents, and I'm not an amazing son, I'm far from it. But the amount of love I have for my parents, amount of deep love and concern and so I have for my parents, like my father only lives a few minutes away from me. Wallahi, ask him, I call him 3, 4 times a day. Why? Just out of pure love, I just want to hear his voice. when it comes to planning like lectures and circles and series, in the daytime, if you guys are thinking, how do I prep? The spine of these episodes has been my father. The spine of these episodes have been my father. And now to shift it to mum. You know, all of these episodes where I've been recording them, I've hijacked mum's kitchen. I've hijacked mum's kitchen. Subhanallah. So what's the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm making from this is that we live in such an individualistic society. We have forgotten how virtuous it is to give respect, honor, and dignity and reverence to our parents. Because why? The world has just become me, myself, and I. My money, my car, my family, my children, my house, my routine, my holiday becomes me, me, me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is breaking that completely, and He's saying there are two very, very crucial, important people in your life. And once these two people depart from the dunya, no matter who comes, nobody will ever be able to substitute the position of mom and dad, regardless of how much taqwa they have. Because that relationship is so unique, is so, subhanallah, affectionate. The nature in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has engineered that relationship is so special, no one can take the position of mom and dad after they depart. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to recognize the rights of the parents. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to seek tawbah from Allah for the times we upset our parents. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive the shortcomings of our parents. May Allah azza wa jal raise the ranks of our parents. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our parents a means for our entry into Jannah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all the time to lower our wings of humiliation from mercy to our parents, so that our children in the future can do the exact same. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. All good was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All bad and shortcomings was from me. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I'll see you for another episode tomorrow. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.